All right, welcome to my very first live stream. I'm very excited to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this every single day, and we're going to talk about relationships. How you can have better, more amazing relationships. What you can do at this very moment, what's practicable, what's something you can do right now, something that anybody can do. You don't have to have the intelligence of 142 IQ to be able to do it. In fact, you don't need such high IQ. You just need to understand a few concepts. And once you apply these few concepts in your relationships, you're going to have amazing relationships. The topic for today that I want to talk about is how you can have amazing open relationships and what you have to start with to have these amazing open relationships. And I want to put the caveat to that if you don't start with these in mind, with these fundamentals, these foundations in your relationships in mind, whether it's closed or whether it's open, you're not going to have amazing relationships. So, without these fundamentals that I'm going to talk about right now, I'm going to point these out to you and you can put them into practice right now. You're not going to have amazing relationships. Mark my words. And I want to point them out. I want you to, as you're listening to this, I want you to always ask yourself, have critical thinking. Always ask yourself, is what he's saying true? And if you don't know how you can distinguish whether something I'm saying is true or not, the very first thing you can do is just ask, well, if I apply this into my life, what is a thought scenario that I can apply so that I can test whether or not what he says is true? I am a strong proponent. I'm a huge proponent for critical thinking in relationships. It's one of the chapters in my book. That's what my book is entirely about, Relationships 101. Critical thinking and relationships. And in fact, what I advise for you to do, and a skill that you have to manifest in your life, is the skill of critical thinking, to think critically. Not just to inherit thoughts from others, not just to assume thoughts from others, and not just to assume reality as it is, without asking the question why it is that it is. In the first chapter of my book, I talked about that most of your beliefs are inherited. That any belief that you have about anything you know, that you don't know why you know that thing, is suspect. Let me say that again. Anything that you know, and you know it without knowing how you got it, without knowing where you got it, without knowing who you got it from, and without questioning, is this true or not? It's questioned. There's a lot of things that you know that you just know because someone told you, an authority figure, or you just grew up knowing it without question. And I gave this scenario in my book. When you put gas in your car, do you turn your car on or do you turn your car off? Most people overwhelmingly, they turn their car off. Why? Do you ever ask yourself why you turn your car off? There are people who will say, oh, I turned my car off because it might explode or it might catch on fire. And what's funny that a car's combustion engine, combustion where explosions occur is inside the engine, where explosions is designed to occur, any explosions outside of that is not designed to occur. And whether your car is on or off, it wouldn't matter. So let's go back. To see the answer to that question, just go read my book, Relationships 101. So we go back. Most of the things that you know without question, you should question. Critical thinking. So let's go into starting an amazing relationship and having great relationships. Now, this is whether it's a closed relationship or an open relationship. Ask yourself, why do I practice it in this way? And as you're watching this video, as I began at the outset of this video, that as you hear this, think of scenarios in your life and thought experiments how this could apply into your life. Never just take anything I say as the key or as truth. Question it for yourself, test it for yourself. And you'll find that a lot of things that you have contention about, a lot of things that I say that you think will never occur or will never happen or will never apply to you, when you test it, hey, this makes sense. This shit actually works. And then the things that you thought are amazing and awesome that you hear from me, and then you test it out for yourself, and then you figure out, this actually doesn't apply to me. this is amazing, this is true, this is great, and it sounds really good. But at the moment, it doesn't really apply to me. It's not really something I like or is my style. I would tweak it in this particular way. I would change it this particular way that suits me. I never want to make you like me. I want to make you the best you that you are and have you create your own relationships. Now, the very premise of relationships in this channel, if you've heard me enough, is the notion that a relationship is how two people interact and interface with each other. What does that tell you? That tells you that number one, since each person is an individual, are into their own things that like, want, desire, different things, individual things. Therefore, there are no two relationships that could ever be the same as other relationships. I have open relationships, and every person who I interact, any one of my girlfriends, are completely different from each other, and we all have different dynamics from each other. There can never be two relationships that are alike because there are no two people that are alike. Each person brings with them a particular relationship, a dynamic in which you interact and interface. You can't interact and interface with people in the same way. You understand? Even if you say the same words in the same way with the same person, being the same person, using the same tonality, if you're communicating with a different person, they're going to take it a different way than if you communicate with another person because they're a different individual. So when we go back to the notion, the idea, what are the things that are required for you to have amazing relationships? Because I went over this in a previous video, that without sound fun, actually it was a reply to a comment of somebody, and here's what he said. Here's the context of this video. He said, on a video that I made a long time ago, more than a year ago, on a video that I said that how to get over jealousy in open relationships, he commented, or he or she or it, I'm not sure who it is. You can never be sure with these YouTube comments. The person said that if you are a jealous person, don't enter into an open relationship, in which I respond in this way. I respond that that's true, but the overwhelming case is that even people who enter into open relationships never get the jealousy thing handled. And particularly people who enter into monogamous relationships, one-and-one relationship, they don't get that jealousy thing handled. They don't start out with fundamentals. They don't start out with good foundations in relationships. They start out because they think in their mind, I'm supposed to be in a relationship. I like this person. Let's be monogamous. They don't necessarily say it in that way. They just presume things and assume things that are supposed to be done that way without question. Like I always say, anything you know that you don't know why you know that thing, you just assume it without questioning it, without asking yourself whether this is true or applies to my life or not, is suspect to introspection, to thinking, asking yourself, is this true? Does it apply to me? And most of the things that you inherit from authority figures, from other people that you don't know, that you've never questioned, more likely than not, doesn't apply to you at all. So what are the fundamentals? Let's go over this. Number one, the most basic fundamental that all relationships must begin with, and this is why open relationships is the greatest form of relationship, and you'll understand why as I go into this. No offense to people who are monogamous. You could be in an open relationship with a person who is your primary partner, who you could be married to, other people whom you interact and interface either together or separately from each other are strictly playmates, and you are married to just one person. You can put it in that way. But let's begin with this. Number one foundation is that you must understand and appreciate what unconditional love is. Unconditional love, the words in and of themselves, remember, have no meaning. In other words, that you can, even the most easiest to understand and banal of words are appreciated differently by different people. Even in the same language, even if you grew up in the same family, you give the same definitions about things, people interact. I want you to ask your siblings, if you have siblings, or if you have close family, because this is the best test for this. you've grown up with them in the same family, same community, same language, and you ask them, what is the meaning of love? What do you define love as? And I will guarantee you, 100% all across the board, that every single person you ask will have a different definition of love. I like to say, there are as many definitions of love as there are people you ask. In other words, every single person you ask will have a different definition of the words you'd like their definition by. So you'll have a different definition of love from every different people. So how do you figure out what actually love is? Well, let me give you one that's really, really good. And you ask yourself, is this definition true? Does it apply? Is it really as good as he says? And here's what it is. It's your wanting for your beloved's happiness intrinsic to your own. In fact, anything you do that prevents them from pursuing what they're happy with, what increases their happiness, their lifestyle, their sense of well-being, their actualization, that puts them closer to their goals, anything, whether or not you're included or not, when you prevent that, such as jealousy and ownership, preventing them from doing things because it undermines you in any way, anything is a demonstration of your lack of love for that person. When you're jealous and you prevent them from wearing things that are sexy to them, or they're going to any particular part of the world for a certain period of time because you're not going to be able to come. Anything which prevents them from doing things that actualizes them or makes them happy is a demonstration of your lack of love for them. And that lack of love is filled with your self-interest. But what I'm telling you is that unconditional love is self-interest in a way that you love them self-interestedly, so you selfishly want them to pursue things that makes them happy, that makes them actualize in their goals and their vision for their life. And oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, when you have a scenario, when you have a relationship, a dynamic between two people, which what makes them happy is their self-interestedly wanting for their beloved's happiness, and their beloved's happiness is invested in their wanting to be with you, then that's perfect when both people feel in that way. When what makes you happy is your wanting to be with them. And what makes them happy is their genuine wanting to be with you. That's perfect. If they don't want to be with you at any particular time, it has nothing to do with you. It might have entirely something to do with them. They might want to do other things. They might not want to be in a relationship at the moment. Or they could be in a cycle in their month. Whatever the case is, let them do the things that they want to do. What are you going to do? Geld them? Imprison them? When you prevent them from doing the things that they want to do, they will despise you, they will resent you. And this resentment is overwhelming in every single relationship, which is why every single relationship goes through this death. And this relationship death is beginning with being and therefore feeling taken for granted. When you take your beloved as granted to you already, because most people overwhelmingly, when they go into a monogamous relationship, they grant themselves to each other. They say, I will grant myself to you in exchange for you granting yourself to me exclusively. In which case, the ultimate result and the inevitable and always the result is that each person is taken as granted, and each person feels taken for granted because they are granted. And then you have the death of your relationship. So we go back. Never take your partner as granted. Want for their happiness. What are you going to do? Geld them, imprison them, and prevent them from doing things? They will resent you for it. That is the number one foundation of every great relationship. And you fear, what if, and you, hold on, let me see, make sure my thing is still on. Okay, we're still on. So let me just make sure. Okay, I'm on. Great. I'm 15 minutes in. So let's end it with this. unconditional love must become the premise. And your primary fear, and I know what your primary fear is. Your primary fear is, what if I lose them? And here's what I'll guarantee you. I'll guarantee you that more likely than not, it'll be tremendously difficult for them to find someone who actually gives them unconditional love. And if you're the kind of person who provides that for them, they will always come back to you. In fact, you have friends who are your best friends, and throughout their life, because you're the only person that is their best friend, they always try to contact you. They always find their way to communicate with you in any particular way. And this is why I love open relationships, because openness is the idea that you want for your beloved's happiness, intrinsic to your own, and you want them to do what's best for them, what actualizes them, what makes them happy, whether or not you're involved. If they like someone, whether they like it romantically or sexually or non-sexually or platonically, you want them to pursue that person, and you would help them. I would help my beloved find amazing guys that, whether sexually or non-sexually or platonically, if they're great people, I would love to introduce them to her, because I know that'll make her happy. And for them to be, let me just end it with this, because I know what your concerns are. For them to be a worthwhile person, they would have to like me. Do you understand? For any person whom I introduce to my partner, for them to be a worthwhile individual, a great person, they would actually have to like me. Why? It's because my partner doesn't want to be gilded. She doesn't want to be imprisoned. She wants to be open. And if that person isn't open or is not appreciative of me, my partner will not like them unless she wants to be in a monogamous relationship, in which case I will help her find someone who's monogamous, because that's not going to be me. Hopefully there's some value out of that. Welcome to my live stream. I'm going to do more of this, and maybe I'll do this every day. Leave me some comments below. Share with me your thoughts. I would love to hear them. And follow me on this channel. Follow me on my YouTube channel. And I come out with videos almost daily, and maybe even daily from here forward. And like this video. It'll help me out the algorithm. And share this video with people who might appreciate it. And if you're an ambassador with Great Relationships University, put your link on when you share this video. And on that note, go to greatrelationshipsu.com and check out more of the material, the 12 plus hours of video lessons, advanced strategies for great relationships. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.